Om Shanti. A very warm welcome. A very hearty welcome. It's really so lovely to see so many familiar faces after a long time. You know, there must have been plenty of things that you could have chosen to do on a Saturday evening, but seems like you must have received a beautiful, gentle nudge from the divine, which is why you were pulled to come here and spend the next 90 minutes with us. So welcome and congratulations. How many of you are here for the first time? Wow, okay, majority of you. So for the benefit of those of you who are here for the first time, we're going to go through some housekeeping items. Basically, the first request is, I'm sure you would have guessed it, take your phones out and put them on silent or turn them off. We're going to request that you don't put it on vibrate because even that sound can be distracting. Yeah, so take a second to do that. We have water in the back of the room. There's a cooler in the back there. We have restrooms in the hallway outside. And if you have any questions or any needs throughout the program, we have an amazing team of ushers. These are angels that are spread throughout the hall that can come and help you at any point. Yeah, come on. You can come in the front. Don't be afraid. This is the last place in the world where you should be afraid. Come. So for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm not sure how much you know about the organization. The Brahma Kumaris is a worldwide spiritual organization which teaches Raj Yoga meditation, right? The principles of Raj Yoga meditation are basically very simple. It's about experiencing peace of mind through a very positive approach in life. And the people who follow these principles, they come from all different walks of life. They have all different religious backgrounds, different cultural upbringings, but they all share one thing in common, and that is to focus on the inner world so that they can come out into the exterior world and create a positive change. That's the basic fundamental principle of Raj Yoga meditation. And the Brahma Kumaris meditation centers are located all throughout the world. We basically are in over 110 countries and on all 7 continents. There are over 9,000 centers. And in the US, we have over 33 centers. You're sitting in one of the 2 locations that we have in New Jersey. We have another one in Cinnaminson. And we have 2 retreat centers. We have one on the West Coast in California called Anubhuti, and we have one just a couple hours north of here, nestled in the beautiful mountains of Catskills, and it's called Peace Village Retreat and Learning Center, which is a special place for us because our guest speaker actually is from there. So Sister Judy is, well, hang on, before I get to Sister Judy, I have to mention that everything that the Brahma Kumaris does is basically free of charge as an act of community service. So where else can you go in the world and learn education on how to live your life for free? Nowhere. So now, with our guest speaker, Sister Judy, she's been working as a media consultant and communication strategist pretty much her entire career. And then about 27 years ago, she turned her attention towards the study of consciousness and meditation. She has held executive positions with media companies such as CBS, Fox Video, and New World Entertainment. She had that for about 15 years. And basically, she was just translating the ideas of authors and thought leaders in the realm of video. In 1999, she helped found Images and Voices of Hope, which is a global media initiative dedicated to media as a force for good. And we all know, we watch enough media to know that all we ever are exposed to is the negative. And so what Sister Judy did was she took a whole shift and turned the media around where it's now sending messages of hope and promise. And she's doing that with this group that she created, Images and Voices of Hope. So now her spiritual journey with the Brahma Kumaris is very interesting. Over the past 27 years, has it been 27 years? A little over. She has gone to India, and I'm going to have you guess. So India is where the headquarters is. The international headquarters for Brahma Kumaris is in Mount Abu in Rajasthan. How many times do you think Sister Judy has gone to India during her 27-year journey with the Brahma Kumaris? Just throw some numbers out there. 15? Over 40 times. Wow. And why? She goes every year, sometimes several times a year, because it's a study, it's a practice, it's a daily way of living. And so she has supported many initiatives for the Brahma Kumaris. In 2009, she co-authored a book on altruism called Something Beyond Greatness, which I know you're going to hear about tonight in her talk. And on a personal note, I've had the fortune of working alongside Sister Judy on many projects with the Brahma Kumaris, and most of them have been international facing, where we collaborate with very senior sisters and brothers and didis and dadis from all over the world. And the one quality that amazes me is her humility. She has truly mastered the art of connecting with each and everyone in such a comfortable and natural way. It's almost like if you think about your best friend, you don't have to do anything other than just be yourself, right? You don't have to put on an act or a show. You can just be. And that is what is your speciality. No, I mean it. You have this special way where you make everyone your friend, even if it's a stranger. And you do that because of the pureness of your heart and your self-encompassing, vibration, and your awareness that at the end of the day, we're all one family. We are all souls, and we're all connected, and we're all together in this. And so really, thank you for driving 2.5 hours to be here tonight. I would like to invite this very special angel, a very dear friend, and a very wise spiritual mentor, Sister Judy. And on behalf of all of us here at the Edison Center, I would like Sister Versha to present to you a beautiful bouquet of flowers from all of us.
Good evening. It's nice to be with you. Do you want to scoot a little forward? There's kind of a hole over here. Do you want to come forward, or you're feeling better at the back? I'm okay if you're feeling better at the back, but if you'd like to come forward, you're most welcome. So we were supposed to do this program last week, where some of you headed over here on Sunday, and then 5 inches of snow fell, and we delayed. So we're going to pick up tonight what we were going to do last week. Can you understand my accent okay? Yeah? All right. So last Sunday, we were going to celebrate two great souls. And that particular day, the day after, January 20th, was the Martin Luther King Day. And the day before, January 18th, was the day that we celebrate this man who we call Brahma Baba. That's his face right there. So I'm just going to say a few sentences about each of them. I suspect most of you may know, but so Martin Luther King, he was a Baptist minister who studied Mahatma Gandhi, right? He really deeply researched this business of nonviolence. And based on what he learned from Gandhi, he created a nonviolent civil rights movement in the U.S. And he was young. He did this when he was in his 30s. So for 13 years, he led the American civil rights movement on behalf of the African American community. You might say that it was on behalf of all minorities, but in particular the African Americans. And he created huge impact. He really shifted access to schools, not by himself, with the movement that he started, shifted access to education and access to jobs and many things that made a big difference. And he was assassinated before he was 40 years old. So and when you ask people about the great souls in the world, they always name the same few, right? So if I were to say, who do you think were the great souls in the world, who would you name? You'd say Martin Luther King. You'd probably say Mahatma Gandhi. You'd probably say Mother Teresa, and you'd probably say Nelson Mandela, right? Everybody says the same names. Now, I would point out none of those people is around anymore. So one of our questions tonight will be, how do we become great? We don't need to lead movements, but how do we become that worthy of a soul? So the other one, this one here, he was born as Lekraj Kirpalani, and he was a father. He was a diamond merchant. He was a devout Hindu. He was a serious student of spirituality. And when he was in his retirement age, as they say, he began to have experiences that he couldn't explain. He began to have some visions. Certain knowledge began to come to him, and he didn't understand where it was coming from. It took him many, many years to figure out that the role that he'd been called to play was this special role in history about sharing spiritual knowledge for this time. You know, all prophet souls are for their time, right? Each one brings in something that's relevant to their time, and that was the role he was to play. He began a movement that now has over 1 million members worldwide, well over 1 million members, and focuses on nonviolence, purity, and transforming the world through transforming ourselves. So, two great souls. What makes someone great? We talk about Mahatmas or great souls, but what is it? What makes us say, wow, this one is a great soul? So it's not like there's one perfect list, but one thing I always think of, they are beyond self-interest, right? They're not just about themselves or their family or their neighborhood. They're really about something bigger. They have what you would call generosity of spirit. when you're with them, you can feel their goodwill for you and their good wishes for you. They tend to create changes that benefit large numbers of people, right? They have impact somehow, and even great souls with smaller circles of impact, still, even if it's their neighborhood or their families, you can feel that the places they've been, there's real impact. What else? What makes you think about great souls? What other attributes? I mean, one thing I think of is, in the presence of a great soul, we feel different. They don't need to open their mouth. There's something about their presence that people just want to be around them, right? They just kind of go stand by them because they feel better, right? So there's something about just their presence. And then what I've noticed about the great souls, I've been blessed with being around some really very remarkable people. And I know when I was in the presence of these people, I felt that they were only looking at me. Even though they had very busy lives, they had lots going on, but I felt when they were with me, they made me feel like I was what mattered, right? So there's qualities like this about these souls that are really special. So, as Anoli said, in 2007, I co-wrote a book on greatness with someone else, my friend Gayatri Narayan, who some of you may know, Something Beyond Greatness. And what we did, we decided to interview great souls, or at least the best great souls we could find. We didn't have access to Mandela or Mother Teresa, but we found some very special souls, and we went to interview them. And then we began reading up on altruism, acts of altruism. So you know altruism, right? When you do something completely selfless. So we started researching, and we started interviewing, and we found some really interesting people. So one of the people we found, that same year that we wrote that book, there was a man in New York who they called the subway hero. Does anyone remember this man? Wesley Autry was his name. And his story was that he was standing on a subway platform in New York City with his two little girls with him. And suddenly, the man next to him on the platform began having seizures. And he fell off the platform onto the railroad tracks. So Wesley Autry did what any of us would do, right? He leapt onto the railroad tracks. He put his daughters with the person next to him. He leapt onto the tracks to try to get this young man up on the platform to be safe. But as he was, because the young man, Cameron was his name, was flailing, and so he's trying to get him up, and he looks up and he sees the oncoming train, the headlights of an oncoming train. So he changes his strategy. He pushes Cameron between the tracks, lays down on top of him, and says, "Don't move." Now, of course, not so easy for someone having a seizure. The engineer saw them on the tracks and threw on his brakes trying to stop, but he could not stop in time. So the train went over these two, and the people on the platform are screaming, and the train came to a stop, and Wesley called out, I'm okay, tell my girls their father's okay." So the crowd was yelling and screaming, and he pulled this young man out and came onto the platform, and they all said, "You're a hero." And he said, No, I just did what anyone would have done. I just had a chance to help somebody, so I did. So that was one of the heroes we looked at. We looked at people in 1982, some of you are old enough to remember this, some of you not. There was an Air Florida plane that took off from Washington, D.C. in a snowstorm. And it had trouble gaining altitude because of the ice on the wings. And so it clipped the bridge and fell into the icy Potomac River. So people were, you can imagine, the plane is starting to sink. Several passerbys came to the water's edge and jumped into the river and began trying to help people. One guy went and got a helicopter and brought the helicopter over and spent hours pulling people by helicopter out of the water. And there was one man who was on the cover of Time magazine, and they just called him the man in the water. And he kept handing people up to the helicopter. And finally they were saying, "You come now, you come." And he said, no, there's someone else. And he ended up being swept away in the river. So these are people who did big, heroic, in the moment things, right? You might say momentary heroes. But then there's people who gave their lives, and that's what the names we were just talking about, right? Martin Luther King gave his whole life to this kind of service. And Gandhi, of course, gave his life to this. So when we're writing this book, we're trying to see the pattern of greatness. What is it that all of these stories have in common? What do all of these people have in common in these moments or lives of greatness? And we decided there were three things. One was they saw with a vision of love. So when Wesley Autry looked at Cameron having his seizure, he didn't ever have a thought, well, this young guy is probably drunk, right? Never had a negative thought. His only thought was, this is a soul in trouble, right? So they saw with a vision of love. Whether it was someone in the water, someone on the platform, their vision was a vision of love. Number two, they acted from the heart. They didn't think. There was no analysis in this greatness. In fact, one of the men who was rescuing people from the river said, "I dove into the river with 5 pounds of keys in my pocket. So if I had been thinking, I wouldn't have done that. I would have removed the..." So they acted straight from the heart. But the third one is really interesting, and it's what I want us to think a little bit about tonight. And that is, they all felt that they were somehow cooperating with destiny. They felt there was something bigger that was calling them to act. And so that something bigger is what I want to think with you about. So, seeing with love, acting from the heart, and cooperating with destiny, kind of right place, right time kind of thing. So I looked for some passages from Martin Luther King to see where he stood on this subject. So I'm going to read you 3 things he said. So in 1951, he was just out of college, and he said, "As I reflect on the matter, however, I do remember moments that I have been awe-awakened." Do you understand that word, awe? Awe-awakened. There have been times that I have been carried out of myself by something greater than myself, and to that something I gave myself. Has this great something been God? Maybe. After all, I have been religious for a number of years and am only now becoming aware of it. So that's one thing. I felt called by something bigger than myself. In 1956, King said, I want you to know that if M.L. King had never been born, this movement, so this civil rights movement, would have taken place. I just happened to be here. You know, there comes a time when time itself is ready for change. That time has come in Montgomery, and I had nothing to do with it. So what he's saying is that change was going to happen, and because he was there, he got to be the instrument for it, but it would have happened anyway. So first he said maybe God, second he's saying maybe time itself called me, and then third, in 1959, he was taking leave from his congregation. He had a congregation at the Dexter Church in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was going to leave the church and go lead this civil rights movement. So he was talking to his congregation, and he said, unknowingly and unexpectedly, I was catapulted into the leadership of the Montgomery movement. At points, I was unprepared for the symbolic role that history had thrust upon me, but there was no way out. I, like everybody in Montgomery, was pulled into the mainstream by the rolling tides of historical necessity. So in the first one, God called. In the second one, time called. And in the third one, history called. But something was going on anyway. There was already some plan, right? There was already some force in motion. And this one, in this case, Martin Luther King, caught that thing that wanted to happen and stepped in and became an instrument. So what about Brahma Baba? I'll read you 3 quotes here. So Dadi Janki, who was my teacher and was head of the Brahma Kumaris for a long time, was being sent away from India to England. And she wasn't so sure she wanted to leave India. And so what Baba said to her, the destiny of the drama definitely pulls you. Even if you wish to stay here, if it's not in the drama, what can you do? Even if you think about it, you still have to go. The destiny is the destiny of service, and it enables its own tasks to be carried out. So it's the same idea, right? Now this time he's referring to it as destiny, the destiny of service. This is going to happen, so no point in you resisting. You're the instrument for this. Now later she was praised. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? She went over there. She didn't even know English. But here he's saying she had to, right? She was the instrument for that. A second thing that he said, God's promise can never be broken. God's promise becomes destiny, and destiny cannot be prevented. So this thing is going to happen, and it's God's promise to humanity, and it cannot be broken. And then the third thing, whatever has to happen according to the drama will happen anyway. It is as though destiny is making everything happen. So when we were doing this research, the thing that we couldn't quite grasp was that every one of the heroes that we looked at, whether it was a 16-year-old girl who ran to the crosswalk to help some woman, or it was the helicopter pilot or whomever, all of them said that it wasn't them that did it. And we just couldn't figure this out. So I'll read you a little passage here. So, in the Air Florida story, the helicopter pilot who pulled 4 people from the river, Don Usher, insisted it wasn't me, it was the helicopter. Wesley Autry wrote off his heroic act to right place, right time. When Martin Luther King reflected on the civil rights movement in Montgomery, he brushed aside the idea that he had led the movement or even given it a decisive push. He said, I just happened to be here. You know, there comes a time when time itself is ready for a change. And we had interviewed a Jesuit priest who had served in India his whole career and had helped the poor and all of that. And when we got done interviewing him, Father Sirach, his final comments delivered after we turned off the recorder was the same humble message. I'm not a great one. Those are great ones. And then he went out the door. So we were just so baffled. Why would they all say they didn't do it? So we went to Dadi Janki, because the name of this book is Something Beyond Greatness, Conversations with a Man of Science and a Woman of God. And the woman of God was Dadi Janki. So we went to her and we said, Dadi, why do they all say that they didn't do this? And she said, God acts through others to accomplish things in the world. And those who carry out the actions are called instruments. In the moment of action, the hero actor does not have the conscious thought of being an instrument, but feels inspired and then compelled to act in a certain way. Only later, when asked about their heroic actions, do these heroes become aware of a certain detachment from the sense of the I who took these actions. With the feeling of being an instrument, you automatically have the stage of humility. Why? Because your experience is that the act is being accomplished by something greater than yourself. So, it's interesting, no? Because usually when we think of greatness, we think of people who go out and lead others, and then you give them awards, and they. But that's not what the research said. The research said that a lot of these souls were moved by something bigger than themselves that they sometimes didn't even understand. They were moving along because they felt some touching or urge or inspiration, and that's what made them move. So, I'm going to propose that we all know something about this. Even if we don't know, we know. So what I want us to do in the next little bit is actually have some conversations about it, and then we'll listen together. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you the questions that we'll talk about, and I want you to treat it a little bit like a meditation. I'm going to read it slowly. I'm going to read it twice, and I want you to reflect in your own mind. So, time or destiny or God calls each of us in different ways. How do we cooperate with destiny? How do we create an inner readiness to cooperate with destiny. So number one, and you'll get to choose which one you want to answer. Number one, think about a time in your life when you felt called to support someone or something. It doesn't need to be as dramatic as founding a movement. It might be something in your local school system or even in your family. Tell the story of this experience. When did you first feel the urge to help? What did you do? And what was your feeling afterwards? So I'm going to read it again. Time or destiny or God calls each of us in different ways. How do we cooperate with destiny? How do we create an inner readiness to cooperate with destiny? Question 1, think about a time in your life when you felt called to support someone or something. It doesn't need to be as dramatic as founding a movement. It might be something in your local school system or even in your family. Tell a story of this experience. When did you first feel the urge to help? What did you do? What was your feeling afterwards? Or you could answer the second question. Think of a time when you witnessed someone committing an act of altruism or selfless generosity. They could have been doing something for you or for someone in your family, or perhaps it was for a complete stranger. Tell the story of what you witnessed. So reading one more time, think of a time when you witnessed someone committing an act of altruism or selfless generosity. They could have been doing something for you or for someone in your family, or perhaps it was for a complete stranger. Tell the story of what you witnessed. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to invite you to move your chairs into groups of something like 4. You're allowed to sit with your person you came with, which is a good thing, right? Or you can sit with strangers. Sometimes stories come easier for strangers. So why don't you go ahead and find 3 people you'd like to be in conversation with, and then I'll give you further instructions. So don't be shy. Just look around the room, find another couple of people you'd like to be in a conversation with, and once you've all landed, I'll give you the rest of the instructions. So just turn around, find someone close by. And if you want to, choose your same language. So if you prefer Hindi or Gujarati, find people to talk with you in your same language. And these chairs are movable. You can move them right around. Okay, and Noli, you might need to help some. Okay, so has everybody landed? Before you start answering, let's take a minute together. I want to make sure everybody's got a group, right? Does everybody have a group? Anyone sitting without a group? Okay. All right, have you all landed? Okay. So before you start, let me chat with you for just a minute. Okay. So just give me 1 minute of your attention before you start. Okay. All right. Now, we're not looking for headline situations. Sometimes greatness comes in the form of someone who just commits, I'm going to take soup to this person every single day till they're well, or I'm going to shovel the driveway of that person because I know it's hard for her. In other words, these acts of greatness that are more personal are just as great. They have the same qualities that we're talking about. Someone gets touched, I could help here. And that greatness is in motion. The whole point of this is to notice that it's not just Martin Luther King or the subway hero. This is what makes the world work, right? So I'm going to make sure you've introduced yourselves. Make sure everyone gets a chance to talk. I'm going to check back in with you at 6:10 and see how you're doing. Okay? All right.
Okay, did you all get that? Because I think the back of the room was already busy in the activity. Did you all understand what she said? Okay.
Halfway through? Good. Make sure you make time for everyone.
Do you want them to continue? Okay.
Up. So, are you complete? Did you finish? Everyone finished? So take one more minute and thank your lovely conversation partners for such a nice conversation. And then bring your chairs back to where they were. You know, it's so nice to come out and have uplifting conversations with people, isn't it? We're not talking about politics. We're not talking about the weather. We're not talking about fires. No, we're just talking about love and destiny and other wonderful topics. So let me just ask you, how was that? That's nice? Yeah. So we're going to take just a few minutes and listen to you. I'm very curious to hear what you heard. And I'm wondering, who heard a story that you liked? Who heard something in your group? Over here, Anoli. So you've got 1, 2, 3. If you would just share the headlines of that. Here, right here in front of where you are, Anoli. Anoli, right here. She's right here, this one.
Judy.
Huh?
Oh.
Okay. So we'll hear 1, 2, 3. Just the essence. Just tell us the essence of the story you heard. And if you would, can you stand or would that make you feel self-conscious?
I'll sit.
Okay. All right.
I don't
What's
know.
your name?
Judy.
Judith. Your
Judy,
kindred
uh-huh.
spirit. Okay.
yeah.
So swallow the mic and tell us what you heard.
My story was that I go to craft classes, senior craft classes, and they had one that was advertised as basic art, and I thought it was just learning certain things. It wound up to be a class for special needs.
Oh.
And when I got there, the librarian needed help, so now I've been doing it for the last 4 years.
Really?
I go there, and I've also stretched out to doing Special Olympics, and also therapy horses. So
And
I
how
do
does that make you
volunteer.
feel doing all that?
It's the best thing. I wish I would have done it as a career.
I can tell. Just
But
looking at your face, I
I
can
love
tell.
every minute of it.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful, beautiful story. Really.
I'm going to tell her story. So you said a story that I heard.
A story you heard or a
Both
story
of their
you told?
stories, yeah,
Okay.
both of theirs were phenomenal. She obviously told hers. And I'm going to tell Arti's story of basically how she worked as a representative for United Airlines. And a passenger had a seizure and ended up soiling themselves. And so she took them into the United Club and helped them with clothes. And a girl had come over and took this, I don't call her patient, but client, and just helped showered her and dress her and everything. And so Arti asked if she was the daughter, and she said no. She's just a stranger that just helped take care of this lady and completely, selflessly did this for her. So I thought both of these stories were
Those
pretty
are great
amazing.
stories, aren't they? It's amazing. They got some touching, right? Yeah. Some touching to help like that. That's beautiful. Thank you. That's gorgeous. Thank you very much. Who else heard a story or told a story that you liked? Back here right next to the wall. Put your hand up again. Yeah. Just tell us your name.
My name is Vishal.
Misha.
I had two amazing stories, one from this gentleman over here and one from Sister Roshni, and both of them managed to save someone's life.
Really?
Yeah, and I would like them to say these things.
Not what you were planning on, right?
No, I wasn't. Hello, Om Shanti. My name
Hold
is
that
Sunil.
mic by your mouth.
My name is Sunil. The questions of remembrance, and the first question I read it and reminded me of an incident that happened many years ago when I was visiting a plant in Bedford, New Hampshire, um, and that wasn't the place I usually go work every day. So I usually go to various plants around the country and help them fix problems. But to get to the point, in those days there used to be a receptionist and lady or a person up front answering the phones, etc. So this lady and I had known her for a number of years, and I didn't know that she was suffering from epilepsy. And so that one morning I was there, early morning, she was having a fit and foaming at the mouth, and she fell off of her chair.
Wow.
And a bunch of other guys gathered up, and they said, we called 911. And while we were waiting, she was foaming really bad, and I could see her that she could not breathe. So I had luckily been trained in CPR, so I performed CPR, gave her mouth to mouth, and she came around.
Wow.
And the ambulance and the paramedics were there, like 5-7 minutes, but they did notice that without that CPR, she would not have survived.
Wow.
So,
That's beautiful.
So I felt, at first, the first thoughts were, like others, say, I'm with this conspiracy theory world, even then, it's worse now, but, that if I do that and something happens to her, there could be more repercussions and lawyers and all that stuff could happen. One of the guys said that, say, don't touch her, let her just wait for, and I couldn't bear to see that. So
you went from thinking to acting from the heart.
yeah, that's
Right.
it.
And the rest was destiny,
yeah,
as
it was
they
just,
say.
it was, yeah,
That's
it
beautiful.
was the Lord's calling, I guess.
That's very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
For sharing that. Lovely. Okay, we got one right up here.
Hello. I wanted to share.
What's your name?
Savannah.
Savannah.
I wanted to share. I met a wonderful woman here, V2, and she shared such an incredible story about her sister who was struggling financially, but she still sent V2 money. And she was able to utilize V2 as a vessel and an instrument, like you had mentioned, Sister Judy. And she was able to use V2 as an instrument and as a vessel to be able to send her money and be able to use that money to help others,
Wow.
even though she was somebody who may have needed it, but she used that and she was able to help others with their health journey and be able to help them get medications that they needed. And I just thought that that was so beautiful that the two sisters were able to connect and come together and
That's
use one
excellent.
another as a vessel to help those around them.
Very beautiful. That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. And only there was a second story back there that he called out, right? Oh, wait, he got a postscript for that story.
Sorry. So Sister Roshni, yeah, reminded towards the end of our session that this exercise is actually an exercise in remembrance and learning humility, and that got me thinking is that she's absolutely right, because even though this story happened, maybe 15-20 years ago, I had put it out of my mind till today. And remembering it reminds me that, I get upset like anybody else, or hopefully not like anybody else, but more than normal. And sometimes I get angry and, say things, etc. But if I remember to be humble and humility during those times, if I remember this story,
That's very nice.
I'll be more humble.
That's very
So-
nice.
so-
And the thing about this destiny thing, what King said, And what the others said was that I did the act, but the inspiration for the act, the guidance for the act, the direction for the act came from a bigger source. And that's where the humility comes in, right? I was lucky enough. I mean, that was a lucky thing for you to be able to do that gift, because now it's permanently a gift for you, right? When you think back, you think how wonderful that was to be of service like that. It's a very funny thing. It's a kind of wealth. We have time for one more. Is the microphone in someone's hand?
Yeah, the second story.
Yeah, second story.
So that was Sister Roshni,
Okay.
and she's at the book stand.
Well, would she like someone? So
Roshni
someone
Ben, do you
else-
want to come quickly? Roshni Ben.
All right. Someone else could tell her story? He'll do his best.
By the way, we have something beyond greatness
Oh, you
outside.
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyone who's interested in buying the book.
All right.
So, Sister Roshni said that in 2012 she had just started giving Raj Yoga meditation training to a lot of people, and there was specifically one lady who came on the, like, she called in and she said that I wanted to join the meditation course, and Sister Roshni said that, yeah, we are starting one from today onwards, so why don't you come in? So after she came in on the 8th day, that lady said that I have tried all the different places to ease my pain and try to get some peace of mind, but I didn't find any place where I could get that kind of peace of mind. But after coming over here, I felt that in those 8 days, and I could realize that what actually the power of God is. And basically she said that if I wouldn't have gotten the peace of mind over here, I was on the verge of committing suicide. So she managed to convert a person from committing a suicide into
Wow.
looking at life in a different way. And then till date, they are in touch with each other, and she's doing really well.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
that-
Thank you for that. Yeah. We never know anyone else's despair or their state of mind, do we? Sometimes people look like they're doing okay, but they may not be doing okay. So the point of this is there is so much greatness in us. There is so much greatness around us. We have those qualities, that love, that vision of love, that acting from the heart. That is our nature. That's not just Martin Luther King or Brahma Baba or Nelson Mandela. And you know, if we live like that, or maybe better to say when we live like that, the rest of it doesn't matter that much. Who's in office, what the laws are, who, all of that. Because as a humanity, as a human family, we lift each other up, right? So that's the essence of greatness. Now, I thought what I would like to do is have us end. You've come to a meditation place, right? This is where we do spiritual things. So I thought, how many of you already know Sister Sheetal, who is the coordinator here? Okay, not enough. So I'm going to invite Sister Sheetal to come up and lead you in a meditation that will take you into a lovely place. Thank you very much. It's been a joy to be with you this evening.
Thank you, Sister Judy. Wonderful, right? So we connect ourselves and connect with everyone with these qualities. So let's experience now. You can sit in a relaxed position, comfortable position. In this silence. I focus on my life. As a detached observer, I see this beautiful life. There are different moments, different episodes I have experienced. Greatness, the beautiful qualities in myself. I can connect myself with the source, the supreme light. The supreme light is my guide. An ocean of love. Comforter of hearts. As I experience His unlimited love, unconditional love, I get courage to change myself. As time is ready to change, I am ready to bring change in myself and bring change in this world. My thoughts, my awareness, attitude, my vision, my words, actions, relation, connection, everything is changing, filled with love. There's a power. Feeling of giving cooperation to the world, which is emerging from my heart. A beautiful vision for the world. A united, peaceful, harmonious, loving global family. with this powerful vision. I radiate unconditional love to the world. Slowly and gradually, I come back to the awareness of myself, the great qualities within me. Now I act through this awareness. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. So we're coming to the end of the program now, and we heard a lot about altruism, selfless generosity, and this concept of time, and how it's not just time, but it's the moments in time that call us to do really great acts. And these qualities, these virtues, altruism, generosity, selflessness, these are all virtues that we each have within us. And there are many more, which you probably haven't tapped into. And so if you're interested to explore more deeply about these virtues, we welcome you to join us on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday we have something called experiential meditation sessions. They're from 7:30 to 8:15 p.m. And this Tuesday's topic is From Fear to Courage, very common problem that we all face, right? How to transform fear into courage. Tomorrow we have children's and teens classes from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The topic for this is actually really good and very appropriate. How to stop a bully using self-respect. Every third Sunday of the month, we have World Meditation Hour from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then, of course, we offer Raj Yoga meditation classes in Hindi, English, Telugu. And if you would like to learn more about these classes and these sessions and these courses, you can put yourself on our mailing list. The ushers can help you out with that. So that way you get the announcements in your email. As I mentioned, we have some books available, and Something Beyond Greatness is there. We also have a beautiful book by Judy Johnson called Living as Art. And before we leave, I want to mention that we are doing something really beautiful. It's an initiative. It's a sort of a campaign that we're running, and it was all in this awareness of creating a shift, creating more vibrations. And so for 40 days, we've all made a commitment to do daily evening meditations right here from 6:45 to 7:30. I think some of you have been coming and taking advantage of it. And this is going to run until February 28th. And so we will be resetting the room in about 15 minutes because at 6:45 we'll have some other people coming in to take advantage of this, and you are all welcome to stay back for it. So while we reset, we're going to have our ushers help you to come onto the stage, come to the front of the stage where you're going to receive a blessing card and something that we call Toli. So Toli is like a prasad, or, for those of you who don't speak Hindi, it's like a sweet. And it's basically, it's something that's prepared from the meditation center while in remembrance of the Supreme. So there are these beautiful vibrations of purity and power and love getting poured into this little sweet that you're going to receive. And it's vegan. And so when you do come up here, I would request and suggest, and I would inspire you to take drishti from Sister Judy and from Sister Sheetal. Drishti is basically the communication between the eyes, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. So when you come forward, just really look into the soul and give blessings and take blessings. And you're going to feel an immediate transformation when that moment happens. So I'm going to have the ushering team start guiding each of you forward. And we're going to serve a light refreshment, which is kind of like a light dinner. And you're going to go this way into the other room where the volunteers will be helping you to receive your meal. We need this open.
Do you hear me calling you? The voice of a mother and a father and a child. Would you recognize the truth? Do you feel the love that's falling from my eyes? Take just a minute, come and rest here by my side. Let me tell you your own story. Let me walk you through your lives. Only a second, that's all it takes to realize. There's 100,000 angels by your side. There's 100,000 angels by your side. Do you hear me talk to you? I whisper through doorways and pathways of your mind. Clear you. And fresh from my journey, crossing the ocean of you. Take just a minute, come and rest to my side. Let me tell you your own story. Let me walk you through your lives. Oh, little seconds, so it takes to realize there's 100,000 angels by your side. There's 100,000 angels here Where do I go with all these feelings and all these faces and open doors when everyone else seems so serene and I just feel so insecure? And where do I go when all the pieces of my heart lay on the floor? You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. Where do I go with all these memories and all these bags filled up with shame? And how should I feel when you call me an angel and dress me in a crown of gold? And what should I do when tears of sorrow just won't stay inside these eyes? You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. What should I do when a gentle-handed reaches out to take my own? And how should I feel when tears of joy, they just won't stay inside these eyes? And what will I do when I start to love you and really trust and know you're there? You say you'll be in the light where I am. You'll be in the light where I am. Come on now, come into the light. You'll be in the light where I am. You'll be Thank you.